That's for sure. And those are the messaging, again, that I get nervous about that have the wrong intentions. Because when people say one thing and then they do the exact opposite. It's like, so anyway, I digress. Let's get back to skill stacking. I apologize, Colton. When I saw that, these are good examples of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, it's a good transition to skill stacking and how to do it the right way. I mean, like I said, there's nothing wrong with learning how to create content and adding on a new pillar to your business, but it's maybe the way you transition into that. Like if you have a certain strategy that you swear by when you're, marketing property or selling a property, and then you go and learn a new tactic, and then the next client you work with, all that other stuff. I know I kind of have a lot of that in my marketing, but actually that doesn't really work. This is the way to do it. It's like, you gotta have some principle with how you evolve over time. It's important. Stack your skills, learn new things. Absolutely. But have some principles and beliefs for, how you do it,
Well, okay. So that's so good. You're right. It's less about binary thinking, and it has more to do with, just skill stacking, addition. It has more to do with, so if you look at mathematics as an example, what we're talking about here is you can't get to algebra without first learning how to add.
Right.
It's a skill that you have to learn first, right? You have to learn how to add, then subtract, then divide, right? Then you could start to learn fractions. Then you can start, you're stacking these skills on one on the other. But nobody would ever say, well, addition doesn't work. Stop adding, stop subtracting, do division. Right. Well, you can't. So I think that's what you're talking about, Colton, and that's what we're talking about. Going back to this whole messaging thing, it's like, it's not that one thing you have to stop this or do that, or it's not binary. It's like, hey, here are some things that might help you in addition to what you're already doing. And because the new agent says, okay, I heard these people, they say cold calling, don't cold call, or don't use direct mail, or don't do Facebook ads. Don't. When people are succeeding doing that very thing, you have to add context. You've got to give it nuance. Now, the skill stacking thing, I 100% agree. It's like we do this all the time. The first skill is to get consistent. It's the habit of taking action on a consistent basis. You might suck shit at whatever the thing you're doing. The content you're making, it doesn't mean that when you start hitting record, that the content's going to be any good and therefore get you any result. But the first skill is to sit your rear end behind that camera and hit record every day. Then you can add on top of that your delivery. Then on top of that, you can start talking about your call to action. Then on top of that, you can start talking about repurposing the content, so on and so forth. And so, yeah, skill stacking, I think, is super important. And to me, the most important thing, Ben, is you can't skip these steps. You can't go from never, ever making a video before, hitting record, and then being Gary Vaynerchuk on the first delivery, which is what people want. You have to go through the suck in order to get good.
There's a progression. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think about like stacking in terms of, often we see people want to build 6 different bridges across the ravine instead of just focusing on one and getting the foundation pieces, adding another skill to build that bridge faster. And once you do get across, now you can run back and forth super fast and start to build another bridge, right? Add on different arms. But initially we talk about, even within people that are really having success in production, okay, hey, let's take a step back. Instead of, adding a completely new arm of doing XYZ, let's just keep going deeper. You're crushing it on cold calling. Hey, what if we added an ISA to go deeper on this one thing, right?
Yeah.
Continue to stack.
To optimize. Or the other thing I look at real quick, Colton, is with stacking skills is to not be, when we look at lead generation as a whole, actually, this is one of the things we're talking about in our coaching call. later today, Ben, is a lot of agents are, because there's a downside to being one dimensional too, right? If the agent only is cold calling, that's an issue, right? Because or they're only doing for sale by owners, or they're only circle prospecting. We believe that an agent should have a minimum of 3 sources of business, 3 to 5 sources of how to go out there and acquire new clients, right? And all 3 or 5 of those are a different skill set. And that's what we believe is a well-rounded business. Maybe you have an outbound approach. Maybe you have an inbound approach. Maybe you have a way to market to your past client centers of influence to generate repeat and referrals. Maybe you have an effort to go out there and position yourself as a neighborhood expert. And maybe you have a strategy, a paid strategy, where you're doing a Google pay-per-click campaign as an example. Now, to me, that's a well-rounded business that is market proof, that no matter if there's a lot of for sale by owners, a lot of expireds, or none, or the market's up or it's down, you have business coming from all of these 5 channels versus one channel. But you can only do that, to Colton's point, of stacking skills.
Yes.
Well, and then there's like micro stackings too, because the skill of prospecting, there's so many skills within that, like the skill of a phone call and setting appointment, there's skills within that, so having a good opening, learning how to stay on track of the conversation, overcome the objection, how to really qualify the appointment. So there's so many micro skills within a skill. And to Ben's point, you were talking about earlier, and I'm just kind of summarizing in my own thought process of what I heard you say, which is like, agents are trying to do so many things at once that they're like, let me do this and then this and then this and this. And so they overestimate, and Tony Robbins said this, and I'll kind of translate it into real estate. People overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in a decade. So it's like, just really take your time and don't overshoot these 10 things you want to do. Like, let's get good at 1 or 2 of these, and then add another. And then eventually, then the compound effect, right? Now you have exponential growth over time.
Love
Absolutely.
it.